What's up, Gator Nation? We're here to talk Florida's latest commitment with Keith Niebuhr of Gators Online. You have picked up a commitment on Monday from four-star wide receiver Jerrae Hawkins out of IMG Academy. Keith, what were your impressions of this commitment, kind of what he brings to Florida's class?
Yeah, well, I mean, first and foremost, he brings speed, elite speed. I mean, there's fast and then there's really fast. And I'd say if you're like a receiver in college football and you have 100-meter times of sub 10.6 seconds, let's say, you're really fast. And he's in that 10.3, 10.4 range. So the guy's got some jets, but it's not just that he's fast. For his age, he's fairly polished. Now, that would still mean raw in terms of, comparing to college receivers, but piece of clay is there, as they say. He's a small guy, 5'9", 165-ish, but he's really fast. He knows how to play, he knows how to get open, and he's got elite level top end speed. So again, you've got to really create mismatches and figure out ways to open up the field in the SEC, obviously, right? So if you have a guy that can take the top off the defense, he doesn't necessarily have to catch everything. You don't have to throw to him a ton, but he's got to be a viable threat, right? So he's got to give that defense something to think about, something that makes them drop guys, which then opens the middle of the field and helps you in your running game too, and all that. So you got to have a little bit of everything, and he's part of that big puzzle. So, I thought it was a very good pickup for Florida, which now has 2 receiver commitments, 17 commitments total, the number 3 class in the country, a very high average rating per commit that's in the top group of all the programs in the country. So they're doing nice things right now, Zach. 12 of the 17 commitments are 4 stars. As of last night, and I haven't checked today, but there were 5 schools that had 12 4 stars. And Florida was one of the 5. Now, some of those also have 5 stars, but you're talking about being an elite company. And if you're a Florida fan, that's what you want to hear. You're tired of Florida taking the so-called low-hanging fruit. Circle back to those guys later in the year when you miss on everybody else, right? Don't take them earlier in the year. You're not seeing that much anymore or at all in this cycle. And so I think overall, when you look at the class, Florida's positioning itself, Zach, for a solid top 10 class and maybe a top 5 class. We'll see. That may depend on whether they can land a 5-star or 2 down the road. I mean, ultimately, there's 5 stars uncommitted out there. They're going to add a lot of points to some other schools' totals. So we'll have to see what Florida does. But I think solidly in the top 10 is a very good start, and where Florida should be and where Florida fans should expect this program to be, given the wealth of talent within, a 5-hour radius of the university.
And I mentioned Hawkins being from IMG Academy. Keith, you're really familiar with that program and know how important it is to land prospects from there. How key is it that Billy Napier and this staff continue that trend?
It's big, and I'll tell you, here's the thing to know about IMG. I'm going to do this in reverse. Guys that go to IMG, Zach, and don't last very long there, have a very bad history of making it in college, right? So we know that program really prepares guys for that next level. And if you can't cut it there, you're going to have a hard time going away to college. So Jerrae Hawkins is from Wheeling, West Virginia, which, obviously they beat out Penn State to land him. And how hard did Penn State push at the end? I don't know the dynamics of what were going on that side. I know they brought him in for an official visit last weekend. That would lead you to believe they certainly like the guy a lot, right? You're not wasting official visits on guys. But anyway, he's from West Virginia, but he's going to school in Bradenton, Florida, and he's acclimating himself well down there. And so I think that's a good sign. It's a college type program. You're going to be prepared for the next level. And also, if you're Florida, you want to make some headway down there. They're going to have dudes every year. They're going to have 25 high-level guys at least every year. And so you want to make some headway there. You want to be an impact there. And this is a good start. This is a guy that was identified earlier in the year. In fact, I think Kerry Colbert, the former receivers coach, was sort of involved in the evaluation. Billy Napier, David Decker, the assistant receivers coach. And then Kerry Colbert left for the NFL. And Florida actually offered this guy, Jerrae Hawkins, Zach. They offered him when they didn't even have a full-time receivers coach. David Decker was filling that role. And then when Billy they offered him, I guess, on March 1st. And then Billy Gonzalez was hired a week or 2 later. And immediately everybody got on the same page. Billy Gonzalez, David Decker, Billy Napier. And it became a team effort, right? Mm-hmm. And so he became extremely close with David Decker, but he also loved Billy Gonzalez's developmental track record at the receiver position. And then Billy Napier kind of comes in and provides air support. Like, he's a really personable head coach. He likes to get involved in these recruitments. Well, I don't know if he likes to, but he does, and he does a good job of it. I mean, who really likes it? I don't know, but he seems to like it. And so, then, forgetting about, or not even mentioning all the off the field people and all that who were involved, when you land a big recruit like this, but really those three did it. And so he liked that he was building a personal one-on-one connection with David Decker. He liked the developmental track record of Billy Gonzalez. And with Napier, which was what I was getting to before I went off on one of these tangents, Zach, he liked the fact that Billy calls the plays. Yeah. For all the people that criticize that part of it, apparently that was him and his father liked that. And maybe one of the reasons is because Billy was once a receivers coach at Alabama. He understands the importance of getting receivers involved and keeping those guys happy, right? So you put it all together, and you really got essentially three receivers coaches if you include Napier there. Now, he's working with the quarterbacks, he's calling plays. I get it, but he's been a receivers coach at an elite program, right? And I think all that impressed him. And first and foremost, it became a thing to this young man, player development. That was number one for him. He said it in stories, and we learned that off the record from multiple sources. Well, player development. But he also felt comfortable in Gainesville. Penn State was kind of the on-3 recruiting prediction machine favorite for months. Florida began to get some momentum a month or so ago. Then he officially visited earlier in June, and that's when the momentum really shifted to Florida. And at the same time, Penn State in the last week started picking up other receivers. Was it a cause and effect? What came first? I don't know. I just know Florida loved this guy, and Penn State liked him a lot. Miami brought him in on an official visit. Oregon offered. They've got some pretty good players out there. Alabama offered this spring. This guy's no slouch, right? So, but again, if you're Florida, you love the fact that you can take the top off of defense. Is he going to be ready to contribute in year one? That I don't know. That's going to be up to him. And also, he's a little guy, so he's going to need to put on weight. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Also, Zach, he's going to run track or try to run track at Florida. Now, football speed and track speed sometimes are two different things now. 10.3, 10.4 sounds really fast to us. And, I covered a guy.
John Capel.
That's right. Well, I covered a receiver up at Auburn, though. And he made it to the NFL, but he was a guy running a 10.15 getting to high school, and he barely made a dent. Yes, Anthony Schwartz, and he barely made a dent in the college track and field scene. And that's significantly faster. Doesn't sound like it is, but 2.10 is significantly faster than 10.3. But point being, he's going to get speech rating. Not bad. And he's
from the GOAT.
That's right, exactly. Mike Holloway, who was the Buchholz High track and field coach when I was a student there. But he's going to be a guy that they're going to figure out a way to get to make defenses think about covering that back end, right? You got to have more guys like that. You can't just have these lumbering guys out there catching passes and hoping they can get open. You need separation, you need yards after the catch. But yeah, it's a really good pickup. Good work from Decker, Billy Gonzalez. Yeah, David Decker's an up-and-coming coach. Those guys often don't get a lot of credit, Zach. You know this. He's an assistant to the receivers coach. But yet, in every interview we did with Jerrae Hawkins, he mentioned David Decker. So, let's give credit where it's due.
Absolutely. And obviously a lot of credit due to the Florida staff as a whole for the class that they've put together in the 2024 cycle. They are steady in the top 3 after the commitment of Hawkins. They now have 2 wideouts committed for the class, and they are most likely not done at that position. 17 commitments in total. Keith, what are your overall impressions of the staff now that we're basically almost out of June and heading into July?
Well, you like what they've done at quarterback. You got DJ Lagway. They've got a good running back. I don't know how to pronounce his name 100%. Kanan Daniels from Mississippi. You're going to have to work to hold on to him probably. I mean, he's in
Waller's going to help.
That's right. You've got a good tight end in Amir Jackson, who once he gets his upper body strength is going to be able to present some real problems for other teams because he's 6'5" and averaged nearly 10 rebounds a game in basketball. So he can high point that ball, which is what you need out of a tight end. I like what they've done on the defensive line, following up with what they did on the defensive line in the last class, which was monumental for Florida, or not monumental. It was hugely important. Linebacker, of course. I mean, really loaded there. Starting with Miles Graham, the great Ernest Graham's son, Darius Hayes out of Largo, Florida, and then they just picked
We
up.
saw those guys at Friday Night Lights, Keith. They're ready.
Yeah, they're ready to go. And, what's his name? Darius Hayes is the bigger of the two. Miles, like his father, is more compact, but, a top 60 national recruit. So linebacker's been unbelievable. Secondary, wait and see. But Corey Raymond's track record makes you think that you shouldn't really be worried there. I guess the biggest concern is offensive line. Florida's got 3 commitments up there. None high. They're all 3-star guys. One of them's from Germany, so you're thinking that's probably a project. They did beat out LSU for Marcus Maskell, but overall, that's probably your biggest concern. I don't know if it's concern zone yet, but that's the one you're watching most closely because, Billy Napier being an old school kind of coach is a build a team from the inside out guy. So on the defensive line, you're loving it. On the offensive line, you're wanting more. So they're still in it with a bunch of people. But also, just because a guy commits in June somewhere else doesn't mean his recruitment's over, Zach. Yeah, obviously other schools are going to try to poach Florida guys, but it works both ways. All right. Yeah. So if you're Florida, you're circling back to guys, you're seeing who's still interested. You've still got several official visits that you can utilize in your back pocket come fall. But overall, you have to like where Florida sits. There's some holes to fill, no doubt. And when this staff got there, this was a roster in decline. It's funny you say that. It seems funny to say that when you just had a bunch of guys get drafted, but the totality of the roster wasn't where it needed to be. I mean, if anybody argues that, they're an idiot, quite frankly. The old staff just wasn't cutting it in terms of bringing in high school talent. That's not even up for debate. I mean, look at the roster. It is what it is, right? And so this staff had kind of up against it a little bit. So you just had a good, solid recruiting class. You want to follow that up with a really good one. And you basically, this needs to happen every year now. And then you also have to win some battles out of the portal. But on the high school level, you see an uptick in Florida recruiting. The logo is still strong nationwide. Not as strong as it once was, but it's strong. Zach, those run of commitments in the last few weeks, 10 total commitments in June, that's got people talking. There's buzz about the program. Other recruits notice it. So now there's still some guys that are going to be announcing in the near future. And then you have, August is when the staff says, all right, it's time to work on this current team now. But Zach, in July, the last week of that month, they're going to have a big cookout. We're going to have a lot of recruits there. It's conceivable to think Florida could go into the season with about 20 commitments. That's pretty good because you may not sign too many more than that. You might, like a lot of schools are leaving a lot of spots for the portal down the road. So very good position right now, especially when you think going into June, I think, Zach, they had 8. They lost one in Chauncey Bowens up to Georgia. But I think they had like 8 commitments. And now you're at 17. Now, who would have thought that? Not many people. Not many people on our message boards, I can tell you that. We got a lot of optimists, but we got a lot of negative Nancy's too. But even the greatest optimist probably didn't think that Florida would have 17 commitments at this point. So obviously they're in a much better position than they were going into June. Outside the top 10 of the rankings, now solidly in the top 5, sitting at number 3 today. So, there's a lot of buzz about Florida recruiting right now, but they're not done by a long shot.
Absolutely. That would be the first thing that people in that building would tell you is that we ain't done yet. And we're going to keep covering it at Gators Online. Make sure you guys stay locked with Keith Niebuhr, Corey Bender, and our entire staff as we head into the month of July. We got a lot of coverage coming your way. Keith, we appreciate the time. We'll see you guys next time.
All right. Take care, everybody.